Gig Gab, episode 507 for Monday, November 10th. National Sandwich Day. Is that right? No, National Sandwich Day was last week. What is today? I don't even remember. It's November 10th, International Accounting Day. That'll be fun. Sesame Street Day, Constitution Day in the Dominican Republic, and Forget-Me-Not Day. It's also the Marine Corps' birthday. It's lots of things. It's Gig Gab time 2025. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Gig Gab, the show by, for, and about working musicians. Our sponsor today is surfshark.com/giggab, where you can go and use code GigGab at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN, which we will talk about in a little bit here. For now, in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton, and my guest co-host today, returning to the show, the Moskowitz himself, who has been mentioned several times recently by other guests. He's the guy who has built this modular band with guide tracks, nanny tracks, as I like to call them, in a good way, that can guide his musicians through a performance, no matter who it is at any given position, as long as they can play, obviously, and they can perform, always be performing. Adam Moskowitz, thank you for returning to the show.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Oh, how's it going today?
Lots of effects. I like it. That's good.
How are you? It's a pleasure to be back. This is my third time on Gig Gab, and couldn't be happier to be with you today.
It is your third time here. That's right. Yeah, and we'll link to your other appearances here where you talked about that system that you have built, and I assume you're still using, right?
That's right, and it's only continued to evolve since last we spoke, I think was about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And, as always, I am iterating and figuring out what I can do better show to show. And over a period of a year and a half, things continue to evolve and, change for the better. And I'm happy to share, some of the updates that go along with that.
I would love to kind of dig into your system and how things go, and also kind of want to talk about what you have in mind for the future of this system too, because even for someone who like me, who plays in a band that several bands that rarely even use subs, let alone have a roster of musicians, right? There are things about the performance that and the architecturality. We'll make up some words today. It's fine.
For me.
Of the performance that are definitely helpful. I mean, I talked on the show recently about how I finally had an opportunity to use nanny tracks through a show, and I don't know how we would have gotten through the show without it. It was 26 Taylor Swift songs that all great tunes and really fun. I noticed the other day I was at a bar and they were playing a bunch of Taylor Swift stuff, and I found my hands just like playing along. I was like, wait, I know these songs. Why? I was like, oh yeah, I did that gig. But in that gig, I would not have trusted myself to know these songs, right? And so having that nanny track guiding us through really leveled everything up for the evening.
Nanny track or invisible conductor, as we've called it in the past.
There you go. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
What are the things that trip up bands when they're trying to learn new songs? And for you, it's like a whole new set of new tunes. What are the things? What are the problem areas? And it's always arrangement and lyrics. Those are two of the giant things, the big hurdles to get over. That's why bands rehearse. Some bands get stuck in the rehearsal room because they are aiming for perfection, and it's more difficult when everybody doesn't know the arrangement and where it's going and where the song ends and all of that. So, my system, I've tried to alleviate that whole concern with the invisible conductor. And, I worked with a new drummer. I'll share with you, I had 2 gigs this past weekend. I had a new vocalist and a brand new drummer on the second gig. And the shows went off without a hitch because of my system. And actually the drummer, being a drummer yourself, I know you're very interested in, the way I run with the click and the cue tracks.
Yeah.
And this guy, he's used to playing with bands where he said they barely know the set list going into the show. And I'll share another story later on because I filled in with another band 2 weekends ago that was in that situation where I didn't know the set list until the day before.
Yeah.
So with my band, I try to do a few things. I create the set list usually 2 weeks ahead of time, and that gives them enough of a leeway, enough of a window for all the musicians to do the homework on their own time, do the preparation, and come to the show ready to go. And we play new songs at every show, which I believe I've shared with you.
I love that. Yeah.
I actually looked before we hopped on the call. We've played 25 new tunes in 2025 so far. Just happened to coincide that way. So
yeah.
We're on November 4th today that we're recording. So that, let's say 10 months into the year.
Yeah.
That's about 2.5 new songs every month, which coincides to about one per show. So I've been pretty consistent with, and all that takes communication to my team. You know, if I want to play a new song without ever rehearsing it, play it live for the first time in front of big crowds, I need to let them know ahead of time so they know what to prepare and have their parts ready. And then we put it all together magically on stage for the first time. And it has that incredible electricity and
everybody's paying attention. Yeah.
specialness to it because we're playing it for the first time. So it's, you got to be on point. You got to pay attention. And
okay.
Often,
So
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I want to ask about this. So like, what is the preparation process for this? And then I have another question about the performance process of it. But I know, at least I think your preparation. Well, tell us, what is your preparation to get things ready, and then what do you have? What do you at least suggest your band members do to be prepared to like take benefit from your preparation?
So I'm the band leader. I also consider myself the CGO of Van Band, which is the Chief Groove Officer.
Okay.
And with that, I make all of the creative decisions. I decide what songs we're going to do. And of course, there's a back and forth. I run it by, I have unique Google Sheets for each singer that I work with. I work with up to like 16 or 18 different vocalists at this point.
Yep.
So there's a main Van Band song list, excuse me, which is about up to 200 tunes repertoire that the band knows.
Sure.
That I know on guitar. And then there is subsets of that list with each vocalist we work with. They have a certain subset, a specialty that they lean towards. So when I'm thinking of adding songs, first considering who the band is going to be, who the vocalist is going to be, and I look at their list. And typically for each singer, I have a bunch of songs in the reserves that we haven't played yet, but I know that they've sent it to me. It's on their song list. So that's sort of a starting point of like, what are my potential songs to add? And
yeah,
I have my preferences. I love a funky guitar part, obviously.
Sure. Yep.
And I know what my bandmates are capable. Everybody I work with is essentially hired guns, professional musicians. They do it full time. I'm actually one of the only ones in the band, and I'm the band leader, that doesn't do it full time, that isn't 100% professional musician as my only income. So
interesting.
I do have a day job. I'm a financial analyst, and you said it's accounting day, so that kind of goes along.
It does. Yeah, I know. I didn't even think about that. That's right. Yeah.
So I share that because I take it very seriously. I perform at the high level that I allow my bandmates to bring me up to.
Yep.
But essentially, they're all hired guns, and I've communicated with them that this is my philosophy. I want to keep injecting freshness and newness and that electricity that happens when we do perform new songs at every show. It has the potential to elevate the entire show because it just lifts it all up. Everybody's paying more attention.
I agree with this. Like the having something where you're going on stage and there's a little bit of danger, like the right amount of danger, right? But like that little bit of like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We're all going to have to really trust each other and get through this together and then it's fun with the right musicians, which obviously you've already articulated that you've already picked them out. But when you've got the right band, that can be a blast. Yeah.
It definitely is.
So once you've kind of looked at who your roster is, you've selected a song. I love that you sort of normalize to the singer, right? So that they know how to deliver the song. What do you create for a new song? And I'm sure this is true of every song, but when it's a new song, like how do you build for this? How do you build your Nanny track? What apps do you use, and how do you get it all together?
Yes. So karaoke version is typically the source of the backing tracks. So I will search the tracks that if I have like 5 in mind that I want to do,
Yep.
I'll find the one that I want to dial in on, download that track. So you download every single instrument, the multi-tracks.
The stems or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, the stems. I load it into Reaper, which is my DAW of choice. It does all the same sort of things that an Ableton or whatever else DAWs would do. I just know how to all the tricks.
You know Reaper. Yeah. No, this all makes sense to anybody who's ever done anything with a DAW or mixing software. Like, you want to use the one that your fingers already know, so that your fingers already know Reaper. Makes sense. Yep.
Right. So then I track the tempo. So there's karaoke version does come with a click track. I don't use their click track. I replace it with my own. But what I need to do is take the audio and snap it to the grid. And the way you do that is with the existing click track that they provide. And then I basically normalize it. So there's what they call stretch markers in Reaper. I set a stretch marker at the beginning of each bar so that everything is always perfectly in time. And at that point, I can then adjust the tempo of the whole track, and all the audio will warp and move as needed without affecting the key of the song. So all that's really cool. And then from there, I'll export tracks. So practice tracks, you call it Nanny tracks. But they're basically, like, if you're the drummer, I'm going to give you tracks of every song we do minus the drums, so that you can put on headphones and you can practice on your drum set and pretend you're playing with the whole band. And, you're going to practice to the guide tracks. You're going to understand every song has 8 clicks before, downbeats.
Okay, so your musicians coming in have the opportunity to rehearse with the very track that they're going to be playing along with. Now, I realize the track is going to have maybe vocals, but bass and keys that might be played by live musicians and the gig. But at least the count in, and then in your guide tracks, you're also calling out, chorus 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing, correct?
Yeah, every sectional change of the song arrangement, intro, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, ending. Those are the main ones that are always cued, and that way we all know we hit the ending beat at the same time. Yeah. There's not like I played with this other band, and they ended a few songs where it's like you pitter patter out.
Yeah, of course.
The drummer keeps going for an extra half a bar. That sort of stuff happens when you're not fully aligned. And actually, that scenario, the fill-in band I played with, the drummer happened to be blind, so added some interesting elements of cueing that were not available that you usually do on stage. You kind of give the drummer a look like we're wrapping up. Well, that doesn't work if you have a blind drummer. So it was quite interesting experience.
How did you? We're going to take this tangent. Sure. We'll come back to the other thing. That's fine. But this is really fascinating. I don't know that I've ever played. I certainly can't remember playing on stage with someone who was visually impaired. It may have happened, but how you came in like last minute essentially for this. Yeah. And how did they teach you what their cues were? Like that, because that seems to be important.
Yeah, so in this band, it seemed like the bassist was kind of the drummer. if you know what I mean.
Okay,
He
I
was
do.
sort of the driving element.
Yep,
And
the conductor, if you will. Yep.
right. And I got offered the gig about 6 days before it happened, so a pretty short notice. And the way it happened is because I'm on the East Coast of Florida, by the way. I didn't mention where I'm from, Boca Raton, Florida. And sometimes we play gigs on the West Coast of Florida, which is about a 2-hour drive, sometimes a little more.
Sure.
And that's a pretty good drive to ask a band member to take. And all the sax players on the East Coast that I know, probably know about 5, 6, 7 of them, none of them were available for this one date. So I ended up reaching out to a band from the West Coast. I found them on Instagram, playing at a venue that I'm aware of that existed on the West Coast. And I contacted their band leader and said, hey, is there a way you can connect me with your sax player?
Yeah.
So the story goes, he ended up gigging with me on in April. And then their band, they had a guitar player that couldn't make the gig. And he knows I play guitar in Van Band. We played a lot of the same songs. So he knows I already come in knowing a lot of the material.
Yeah.
So he reached out to me, said, hey, we're in a situation. Our guitar player bailed. Do you think you could do this gig? And I told him, it was a little bit of a far drive for me. So I negotiated a little bit of a higher pay so that it would cover my gas expense.
Sure.
And that I wouldn't lose money by just traveling to get there and back. And I asked them for a set list. Like the gig was on Saturday and I got hired on Monday. I asked them for a set list every day leading up to Thursday, and I didn't get anything. The band leader just kind of told me, hey, I'm really busy, sorry. And I'm like, look, I'm trying to come in and make your band's show a success. Give me a little bit of help here.
You're right.
Just let me know. It was 2 45-minute sets, so it wasn't a super long show.
Okay.
Just narrow down. I'll tell you which songs I know. Just give me a set list. They never got a set list to me. So me being a band leader, I make set lists all the time.
Did you build a set list?
On Thursday, I said to myself, maybe this is an overreach, but I am just going to make a set list. And it's not like they have to go in the exact order I'm saying. I just want a collection of songs.
A song list, yes.
So they know what I know, and then they also know what I don't know. Just to try to simplify it for them since they weren't taking the step. And I'm a hired gun. I wasn't getting paid to make the set list. But
no, of course not. But
I want it to be a success.
Exactly. No, I love this. I mean, as a control freak, I resemble these remarks.
Yeah. And it's all because I don't want them to call a song that I just don't know or I didn't have time to learn in a very few short days. I learned about 8, 9 songs for them, and then they only called maybe 1 or 2 of those that I learned.
Of course.
That's going to happen. That's fine. But
that's how it goes. Yeah, exactly.
The show was very successful because I gave her the song list and she called songs from that song list. And the rest of the band was like, okay, this show is going to be a little different than our normal show. We have a different guy on guitar.
I was just going to say, it's already starting different. That's right. Yeah.
And they played a few songs in different keys that they didn't tell me beforehand. But what I did is I looked up their band on YouTube and Facebook and found every video I could. And I noticed 3 or 4 songs they were playing in different keys. And I noted it down. I changed my chord charts to match the key they played it in. So I was ready to. I kind of went above and beyond the just the hired gun.
What status. A great tip, though. No, that's so brilliant because
I recommend it.
Yeah, well, I mean, even just spot checking it on YouTube and seeing, even if you spot check it and you see, okay, everything is in its album key. Okay, great. Probably playing everything in album key, or. If 3 out of the 4 things you find on YouTube are not in album key, well, now you know to ask the question before the song starts.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really smart.
And
see, folks, this is why we can't only have drummers on the show, because I would never think about that. I would go and watch, okay, how are their tempos? Like, what are the grooves like? How do they perform? Like, all of those things. But it would never dawn on me to check the key. Because it doesn't matter, right? For me, for the job I have to do usually. Singing, I suppose maybe, but even that.
I know you mentioned before you do dabble a little guitar. Like, are you familiar with music theory as a drummer? I'm just curious.
I'm extremely familiar with music theory. I took 2 years of theory in college, and like many classes, and I took piano lessons. Piano was the first instrument that I played. So yeah, I can I can hold my own in a music theory conversation up to a point. But yeah, intervals and all those things are things that I learned. Sight singing classes, I hated them. They were 20 minutes across campus at 8 a.m. In the winter, and I think I had them 3 days a week. But going and having to sing intervals in the morning when your voice is not ready to do this, I learned a ton. And I was also gigging at the time, right? So like being able to have the practical application, like I learned stuff this week. I, did it on Friday at the gig. It was like, oh my gosh, yeah, this makes perfect sense. So yes, I have enough theory. Enough about me. Yeah.
A related question to what you just mentioned. Do you have a warm-up routine vocally on when you have a gig day?
I do have a vocal warm-up routine. Let's talk about that in a minute here, because right now what I want to do is talk about our sponsor. And being a working musician means your office changes every day. We post on social media view of the office for today, right from the stage. And that keeps us using the Wi-Fi at different places all the time. And that's what I love about Surfshark. It's a virtual private network, aka a VPN, basically a secret tunnel that keeps your online life private and your data locked down no matter where you plug in. It protects me from hackers and snoops when I'm on public Wi-Fi. So when I'm sending, set lists and contracts and tracks at some random airport or some random club or green room or wherever, I know it's secure. And Surfshark lets me bypass those annoying geo restrictions, right? So if you're on tour in, say, Europe and you want to stream your favorite show back home in the US, you can do it. It's kind of like being in two places at once, minus, jet lag. I love that one subscription covers every device I own. Your laptop, your phone, your tablet, even the tablet I use only to run like my click tracks and set lists on stage. Of course, that's included too. And with their 24/7 support and no logs tracking, it's built to just quietly work while we always be performing. And while Surfshark can't stop bass players from sending that one more mix, it can stop everyone else from seeing it happen. And isn't that the point? Surfshark even has Surfshark Alert, which tells you instantly if your personal info ever shows up in a data breach. So protect your privacy and get connected the smart way. Go to surfshark.com/giggab or use code GIGGAB at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. They've got a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. Again, surfshark.com/giggab or code GIGGAB at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. And my thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this episode. All right, we'll tug on this tangent here. A tangent off of a tangent, I will acknowledge. Just folks, I am keeping track here, as I know you are. So you asked me, what do I have a vocal warm-up routine? I do. I have shared bits and pieces of this on the show over the years, but I will share the entire thing, and you'll probably judge me, and I love that. I love you for that. So what I have learned is that warming up vocally for me, I do it in the car generally on the way to a gig. And warming up for me is as much about actually like warming up. It's a little bit about warming up. More than that, it's about learning where my voice is on any given day, so that I am not surprised when I get on stage. I often wind up, I say that I am a better harmony singer than a lead singer. I can certainly sing leads. I'm fine doing it. I just don't think my voice is interesting enough to sing leads. And maybe that's just a me thing. But I love singing harmonies. I'm really good at blending harmonies and finding the right notes and all of that good stuff. So I wind up singing a lot of high harmonies, and I like to know, what's it going to be like when I go sing that high harmony? So my vocal warm-up routine involves singing the same song twice. I have R.E.M's Finest Work song on my as in my vocal warm-up playlist that I have, and I can just tell my car to play it. And the first time it's on the playlist is the is the version from the album document that if you know R.E.M., you probably know that version of the song. And when on first pass, I sing the lead, the Michael Stipe part, and that is at a very comfortable place in my voice. I don't have to push or strain or anything. And it really lets me open up my chest and just get the air flowing and all of that, which is great for me. And then it plays again. And the second time is the version from R.E.M's eponymous record, which was like a greatest hits record, where they remixed it with horns, which is a great version of the song. And on that pass through, I sing all the Mike Mills high harmonies. And that way I'm already warmed up, but now I get to, and I'm already like thinking in tune, and I'm thinking about blending with the lead because I just sang the lead. Like I'm getting my brain tuned in as much as I am like my body. And then I sing all the high harmonies through that. And by the end of that, I know, okay, what am I capable of today? Where do I need to be careful? What do I need to navigate around? That kind of thing. And then if I still have time and I want to keep singing, for whatever reason, I know whatever reason, I love all the songs. The remainder of my vocal warm-up playlist is the entire album of Spin Doctor's Pocket Full of Kryptonite. And so I will just start singing along with that, which is a great range for me. Chris Barron's voice is kind of, he's in a higher register, but it's not so much to push. So it's just good to just keep me flowing and all the rhythmic, devices that Chris Barron uses when he sings in his melodies and in his vocal delivery is a great way to kind of warm up your face muscles and all that stuff too. So that's what I do.
Yeah, I think the whole intent there is just don't let the first time you sing all day be on stage.
That's the intent. That's it. That's
mine.
Right.
I do a very short thing, but it's sort of a ritual. It's like 3 to 5 minutes, just some scales. And there's a YouTube video. I just type in men's vocal warm up 5 minutes, and I kind of every time I hit a certain spot, jumping on the highway to drive to the gig, I always do this quick video. And the intention is just to loosen up my voice. And, I'm not the lead singer. I just sing backups.
Sure.
But I want my pitch to be on point as much as possible. And it's really just like, all right, sing from your diaphragm. It's just those like simple reminders to just, and I also stretch my fingers at the same time. So I'm kind of getting ready for bass or guitar.
Yep.
And actually had a friend who started a band in Colorado, and he was telling me, they had their first gig ever, and he shared with me that like what I've done with Van Band has inspired him from afar, and he started his own band, and he's kind of chasing the dragon as we all do. To, build a band and have it gigging regularly. And he said he started the gig and his fingers were like not working the way he wanted them to. And I said, "Did you stretch, before the gig?" And he said, "No, I didn't have time or whatever." I said, "Listen, time is not a factor. It takes 30 seconds to a minute. Make it part of your ritual, and you will never regret it. It's just like a great, pre-show thing to do. Get your body and your mind ready to perform."
There's something to be said for this, especially as years continue to pile on. I find that I am much happier behind the kit if I have stretched, and it's not my hands, my hands and my wrist. Usually by the time I'm ready to like play, I've had sticks in my hand, all of that. So I'm generally fine, and if my body's warm enough, then that's okay. But I find my bass drum, if I stretch my legs and really kind of get my hips kind of moving, it makes such a difference for how comfortable I am during that first set. That's I've done it, but it's not part of, as you said, part of my ritual. I like this because my vocal warm up is part of my ritual. Now I have a question for you. What happens if you have somebody in the car with you on the way to the gig? Do you skip your vocal warm up?
I don't. I typically drive to every gig myself, and it's often because I have so much gear in the car that somebody else doesn't really fit.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm typically always driving solo, so it's a time to just meditate on putting on a good show and sort of letting my worries of the day and worries of the week dissipate and not bringing them as baggage to the stage. just a simple practice, just to center myself on my breath and understand that what my intention is in a performance,
Yeah.
and it's to bring joy, and it's to have fun and experiment, and that kind of leads me in. You had the drummer from Pork Tornadoes,
Mike?
Mr. Mike Schulte, a great dude, awesome drummer. He was on your show a couple weeks ago, and my name was summoned, and it was in the context of, avoiding cancellations with your band, and yeah, that's been a great positive of my setup, is that it's not dependent on any one individual,
Right.
much like a sports team. If you think of like a basketball, you have your starting five, but then you have a deep bench. And if your one player has an injury or whatever, can't make the game because he is out of town, there's a deep bench that is ready and willing to step up,
Yeah.
and is also going to deliver just as great of a teamwork effort. And Mike mentioned that one of the negatives that could come out of that is, maybe there's a cap on potential growth of a band that's modular, because there is not the personality aspect. Like the
Yep.
Pork Tornadoes, they are such a beautiful thing for the cover band world, because it's like this. And I'm sure there's many other bands at that level, but Mike Schulte has kind of showed the way of what a cover band can do.
Absolutely.
And I think in a lot of ways they operate as like an original band does, in the personality
They,
way.
they do. That's a really good point to make, because they and some it's rare, but some cover bands really do operate as the same, with the same intentionality that an original band does. I think the Pork Tornadoes don't rehearse or get together nearly as much as an original band might. Although I say that, and I know that Bitter Pill, the original band I play in, probably hasn't had a rehearsal since last winter. So, maybe not so much.
But do you guys have you had a new song added to your set since last winter?
No, we haven't. We worked up a lot of new songs, and that's that band's general sort of MO is we gig during the summer and we write, and if we're going to record, that happens also during the winter. So it's we're following a normal flow for us. But actually, I'm trying to think. No, we might have added a new song. No, it was probably winter or spring, and that was it. What's interesting is we rehearsed a bunch of songs that were written, and then we didn't add them all initially. So when we came back to, it was like maybe 3 weeks ago, we brought in a song that I don't know if we've ever played live, but we hadn't rehearsed it in a year. And I was like, we're going to do that at the gig today. Yeah. Okay. Great, let's do it. It's like racking my brain. Like, do I remember this drum part? It's like a weird thing I created. Okay, yep. It was this song called "Nobody Cares Until You're Dead." Right? I think that's the name of the song. And it's like this. I remember, and thankfully I remember writing "Toy Soldier" on the chart after I came up with the drum part, because it's this very sort of broken thing, and I feel like a toy soldier when I'm playing it. And so I was like, right, this is the Toy Soldier song. I remember now.
Yes, anything to trigger your memory. That's
exactly
what curveballs are all about.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but like if somebody else saw that, they'd be screwed. They wouldn't know what to play.
Yeah, most definitely. If anybody saw my notes for that band I filled in on, they would think I'm a crazy person. But that's. But anyway, as long as it makes sense to you and you could glance at it on stage and get what you need, that's very valuable.
But back to the most recent tangent that we took with Mike Schulte saying that.
Yes.
Right? In the context, you said they operate like an original band, and that's where we got off here.
Right.
But yes.
So let me share a story just from this past weekend. We had 2 gigs, and on Saturday's gig, it was at a casino, and at Friday night's gig, I finished packing up. It was a great gig, new vocalist at that gig as well, and I get a text from the singer who was supposed to be booked Saturday night saying, hey, I had to bail out of my gig tonight, really sick. I don't think I can make it to tomorrow's gig. So I take a deep breath and I say, all right, here we go. Let's go to the bench. And when I say the bench, it doesn't, like, sometimes there's a idea with subs, the phrase sub,
Yeah.
that it's a less than experience than what would have been. And that's probably typically the case with, regular bands that had the same lineup every show. 'Cause
Absolutely.
if you slide somebody else in, especially the drummer, the foundation of the band, you're going to notice a difference. With the vocalist, it's sort of the top layer, the icing on the cake. So as long as the rest of the band is tight, which they are because of my system, I can slide in any singer. But it was a female singer that I had to cancel, and I ended up replacing her with a male singer.
Okay.
So I had to completely revamp the set list the morning of the gig.
Right.
As I said, I had made it 2 weeks ago with the band I had booked in mind, but I go with the flow. Yeah, my whole intention as a human is just to be like water, and this was the scenario that I found myself in, and the show must go on. I know it's going to be a success. I just have to take a few steps to align my vision with what the reality.
What the reality is. Yeah. And was this with a drummer that had never played live with you before? Is that right?
This was with a brand new drummer. And
Yeah.
it was a recommendation from a bass player that I've hired many times. It's actually his cousin. That's the drummer. So they had this built-in chemistry already because they've been jamming their whole lives together, the bass.
Got it.
drummer.
Yep.
So even though he had never played with my band, he was like immediately part of the family. And he was very interested in my setup and my system. And he actually was asking me, like, what app did you do to make this? How did you create your lyric videos? What are the secrets? And I'm always happy to share with people. I put in so many thousands of hours of work into this project that I know even if I share all my secrets, most people won't do the work.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Mike Schulte, it says the same thing about, I'll teach you everything that we did to push, Pork Tornadoes to the level that you're at, but you're not going to want to do it. And this is why, I do a couple other podcasts, and on my Business Brain podcast, listeners are probably sick of hearing me say, if you want your idea to be worth $100, write it on $100 bill. Ideas aren't worth anything without execution. And in order for somebody to execute on your idea, like you said, you've given away the formula. You talk about it here. This is your third episode on it, and you're very transparent about it. There's nothing. It's clear you're not hiding anything, but it doesn't matter who's going to put in that time. And there's probably someone out there that's going to be inspired to put in that time, just like there's somebody out there that listens to what Mike Schulte's doing and says, I can do that because we all can do these things. And I will do that, and then there you go. So yes, I agree. Yeah. 100%.
And I mentioned, Mr. Schulte and the Tornadoes, with my band, we use tracks, but it's a background instrument, and it's a supporting layer. Yeah. And because I'm able to cast the band for any given show, it's a curated ecosystem, and I don't ever have to have a scenario where I don't have a singer or the singer has to mime to the tracks.
Okay.
And
sure.
every band or every musician has their threshold of acceptability of what's quote unquote okay for
yes
tracks. And in my situation, I would never have lead vocals or lead instruments in the track. It's just not what I'm trying to put out on stage.
Yep.
It is very Milli Vanilli, Ashley Simpson like, but I completely understand why a band at that level with that kind of investment would be ready for that step and then take that step when absolutely necessary.
When necessary, sure.
I have absolutely no qualms with it. I have nothing against it.
I was talking.
Choose to do it with my band.
Yeah, I was talking to an original band, somebody in the crew for an original band who plays at the highest level, and they always have emergency tracks in place. Well, I mean, I mentioned that I saw it wasn't this band, but that I saw Keith Urban, and he played without his bass player, who was his music director, right? But the guy was sick, and so he did the gig without him, and just tracked the bass through, and it's fine. I also talked to another band, again, at the highest level, that during the sort of initial reopening of things in like 2021 or 2022, post-COVID lockdowns, that they actually toured with a second band that was not involved with the first band. And sure enough, as band members would get sick with COVID, they would be, sequestered in a hotel room. They would pull the healthy sequestered person out, replace them for a gig. They would not, they would stay away from the rest of the band on stage. They would do the gig. And then as soon as the primary person was healthy, they'd be swapped back out to the hotel. But very expensive to do for obvious reasons. And depending on the makeup of your band, if you're somebody, let's take Keith Urban as an example, where the crowd is coming to see Keith Urban, then if you either don't have your bass player or swap out your bass player, that you're still delivering what you sold the tickets for, right? It might not be what people expected, but with like an original band or a band where all of the members have equal personality in terms of the crowd, let's take Rush, for example, right? They're going back on tour.
That's right.
They did not talk about how who is going to be mixing front of house for them, or who's going to be their monitor engineer, or who's going to be the lead grip for the gig. But they sure talked about who's going to be playing drums for them, because people showing up that for that particular band are going to want to know the answer to that question. Us nerdy people, of course, what was the first thing that happened when I saw the announcement? I started texting all my front of house engineer friends, finding out who's doing the gig. But like, that's just me. Like so depending on the band, yes, you have to, you have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important at this point to note that, every band has a different intention. What are you trying to do with your project, with your business? And, bands like the Pork Tornadoes put on their ticketed shows, very high value.
Yes.
All those things are great. With this band, with Van Band, what I'm really trying to do is create something that's future proof. And this is the secret setup that I've come to over years of iteration and trying to figure out. Because when I started Van Band, it was a set lineup. It was people I found on Craigslist,
right,
because I had to start something. And you always start with one step forward. And as I've continued to take steps over the last 5 years, I've realized that if I want to future-proof this band, I want to be talking to you in, 50 years or whatever, and still be playing with iterations of the Van Band potentially. Maybe
I don't know that Gig Gab is future-proofed quite like Van Band is, but we'll see.
Let's
but
say
you never know.
Let's say 10, 20 years, whatever.
Sure.
Whatever. I don't know how long a band usually lasts, but there's typically an arc of a band, and maybe you exclude things like the Rolling Stones or something where they have replaced members over time. That's
many members, yes.
Kind of what I'm doing, but I do it at a much faster pace. And if you
That's
remember
interesting.
on my very first episode when Paul Kent was still on, I brought up to him, I said, you've had different people come into your band. It's just at a much slower rate. And what I do is step on the gas on that. And I want to have multiple options. So I'll bring in a new keyboard player just so that I have a new option in the Van Band family for when my main guy can't make it.
Yep.
And we don't rehearse. So the only way I'm going to bring a new musician to the family is to give them a gig opportunity and see how they do. And I've given people gig opportunities, and I didn't love the sound that they contributed, or they overplayed.
Sure.
Or they didn't understand the value of space, which is a really important thing in a band like mine, in a funk band. You can't play all the notes at all the times. So there's value in knowing the value of silence, and then bringing positivity to the stage. I'll share one other quick story where I had a vocalist that he looked back at me before a song and he said, "Oh, I hate playing this song."
Uh-oh.
And okay, no reaction on stage, but mental note, I'm not hiring this guy again. Because, and it's very simple, so very simple. He may have had a moment of honesty, but I send out the set list 2 weeks before. So if you have an issue with a song, all you have to do is let me know. Send me a text. Hey, can you switch out that song? We have many, many other options. Don't tell me on stage I hate this song. That's not the energy I want to feel just before I start the intro.
That's a really, there's a good lesson here, and it's one I certainly have learned the hard way over the years. I tend to, I mean, anybody who listens knows that I just kind of speak and often don't think first. And I've had that happen on stage where I, either, lashed out, maybe is the right term, maybe is the wrong term, at a band member or a bandmate, I should say, or, expressed some negative thought or whatever. And then I've seen other people do it too. I mean, we all have. And as soon as I saw it coming from somebody else, it was like, oh, I don't want to be that way, like ever. And I don't want to be on stage with people who are that way, including me, so I need to change how I approach these things. And like you said, learning to take that breath, make the mental note. But really the important lesson for bands is talk about these things. There is a time and place, and the rehearsal room is a great time and place. Depending on the nature of your band, maybe your text trail or your Slack group, but text can get weird with things like that. It often helps to have those conversations in person because, if somebody texts, I hate that song. It's like, if you're in the wrong mood to receive that or the wrong mindset or you're not quite understanding what they're saying, you might blow it out of proportion where they're just saying, oh yeah, if we could just avoid doing that, that's like I would love it. But if it's important to you, let's talk about it. But that collaboration, that's with Casual Gravity, the band that I joined, about a year and a half ago now, our rehearsals are, sometimes we're playing all the way through rehearsal, and sometimes we play for 30% of the rehearsal and then discuss things like, arrangements of songs or selecting songs, or like, oh, I don't know that this is working for us. Let's talk about this. But that's the time to do it. In the middle of the show? No, exactly. It's all high energy, positive, pretend.
That's an offstage conversation.
That's an offstage conversation. Yes.
It's what I expect, and it's the reason I send things out early so that I don't mind changing the set list if you say, hey, take off these 5 songs. I have many other options to put on. On stage, there's got to be a positive energy, and that's what I curate. And if I have other options that are going to bring that, that's who I'm going to hire instead. Even if the guy's an immense talent vocally,
sure,
the energy and the vibe on stage is just as important.
That's interesting. I mean, it reminds me of like all the touring pros who take gigs because of the hang, right? It's like everybody can play. That's sort of table stakes, right? But I only want to tour with people who I can hang out with. And I mean, this is a different facet of that. You're specifically talking about the vibe on stage. I'm sure the offstage vibe is also important. I'm not saying it's not, but this is like thinking about, okay, what's it like to be on stage with this person? And your audition process is effectively that, right? Yeah. You're not auditioning them in the rehearsal room.
Throw them right into the heat of battle, and we see how we do together. And sometimes there's times where I feel the need to give positive feedback or
sure.
But there are other times where something so egregious happens where I'm just like turned off, and
yep.
Maybe that's not a permanent feeling, but at least for the next 6 months, I'm going to keep that in mind, that if I have the inkling to hire this person, I'm going to remember that moment, and I'm going to probably offer it to somebody else. And that goes along with having options. It's sort of a superpower as a band leader, because there's also the option of scalability. And what I mean by that is we had played 2 gigs this weekend. One is a 6-piece, one is a 5-piece. And I'm playing a gig next weekend as a duo. And the way I book gigs is if I'm available and I'm talking to a booking agent or a client, I book the date, not knowing who the lineup will be,
right,
or how big the lineup will be, until I know the dollar amount that's going to be the gross pay. And then, sometimes they'll ask, some agents are like, how many piece band I'm happy to answer once they let me know the rate.
Yep.
And
It
and then
depends on what you can pay for. Yeah.
right, I reverse engineer what the lineup will be based on the rate of that gig.
Yeah.
And for example, we're playing a house party where they can only afford a duo. We can play as a duo, and everything else can be in the tracks because
Oh, that's right.
because of my setup, I have snapshots of like every iteration of possibility of the lineup. So, there's a version where it's the full band, but I add the keys in, if we
Right.
can't afford a keyboard player live. And then there's what I call the duo version, which is like everything but guitar and vocals is on the track. And then me and a vocalist will perform as a duo, but we still sound like a full band, and we're able to control the volume at a house party. And with a regular band where let's say there's a set lineup of 4 to 6 people, some people might feel resentment if
Sure.
the singer and guitar player said, "Hey, we're going to go do a duo gig and call it the band." It's because I'm the band leader, and every gig is its own little world. I can cast for what that gig needs and what it can afford, and nobody has any resentment because, like, for example, the drummer doesn't even know about that gig, the duo gig.
Right.
So he has
Right.
nothing to be upset about or mad about. And whenever we have a full band gig, he gets the offer. So, it's the scalability options, because I can go down to a duo or up to a 10-piece band with the full horn section, multiple vocalists, blah, blah, blah. So it gives me a lot of room for flexibility and maximum fungibility.
I remember when I got here to New Hampshire, it's 20 years ago. And actually, a couple of things that you said have reminded me of this. The first was that my audition with them was, I showed up at a gig and they invited me, and it was a bar gig, fairly low stakes kind of thing. And especially for the first set where things were not quite, the club wasn't full yet. And they had me come up and they're like, "You want to play a couple of songs with us?" I was like, "Sure." And their drummer was leaving. He had told them that he was leaving the band, so it wasn't like they were replacing him without his knowledge or whatever, And so she invited me up, and I did a couple of songs with the band. And they were like, "Oh, this is great." But I also, we all got to learn what's it like being on stage with each other. Is everybody like digging in and performing? Are we having fun here? All of those things. And that was it. That was my audition was that. And then we went to the rehearsal room and learned a bunch of songs together. But what she told me, this was a band called Knockoff. It was run by this woman, Kelly. And she told me up front, she said, "Look, I have," she couched it by saying, "I have commitment issues," which is fine. And she said, "So I don't have just one set lineup for this band. If I book you for the gig, it's yours. I'm not going to pull the rug out from under you." She's like, "But I do have other drummers in mind. We do need a primary drummer. That's going to be you. But it's possible that I might book another drummer or another bass player, another guitar player. If she's like, I book gigs and whoever is available, it's fine." So she said, "Just don't get if you're going to be upset that you find out that I'm doing a gig with a different drummer, then don't join this band." And I was like, "Okay." But knowing that up front made it very easy. It was like, okay, I understand what this is. If she had told me, "Okay, this is the band," or, hadn't set that expectation, and then I saw "Wait, you're playing gigs with what? Do you not like me? Do you not like?" It would have gotten in my head about it, but it didn't when it happened. It was like, "Yeah, okay, great." And that also gave me flexibility because I had little kids, right?
That's the other side of it that people don't talk about. It gives all the musicians in the band that flexibility just as much as it does for myself.
I had the freedom of saying no and not worrying
not
about
like you're bringing down the project and making them not make money and all of those
correct
things that go along with it.
Or are they going to replace me? Right? They're going to do the gig. Well, is this going to be it? Am I at the bottom of the list? That kind. I mean, I'm sure if I'd said no too many times, then yes, I would be at the bottom of the list. Mm-hmm. But that flexibility, that's worth a ton. But again, it's all about setting those expectations up front so that everybody understands. That's the key.
What did that really take? It took about 2 sentences of a conversation.
That's
of
it.
Being honest and transparent about the intention of the band leader. It's actually very simple, and I think people complicate it because they're used to the way it's been for so long. And
Yes.
I honestly, I understand that the pushback I get, people don't always understand the immense amount of positives that my sort of system brings. And
Yep.
of course, it's not perfect in every way, and I embrace that as
No,
well.
and I think Mike, I think that at least to me, when Mike was making that point a couple of weeks ago about there being a ceiling, I think that's true to an extent. There are things, there is chemistry that happens that when you have the same people on stage every time, like when you run your cover band like an original band, where you don't sub anyone out. You're all if you're all guys, call it a band of brothers like Paul does with the House Rockers, whatever it is. That there is something that can happen there that doesn't happen when you have a modular band like yours. But what you get is flexibility and consistency, and you get to set the bar where you want to set it, and you deliver that. And so I don't think there's. I think Mike was right, but I don't take that as a slight against what you're doing here. It's just a reality of it. Just like with when I was in Knockoff, that band, it was never going to be at a level that it could be if we all really dug in and committed to each other. Okay, now we can do some fun arrangements. We can do things that require us like knowing each other and listening to each other that just aren't going to happen. And the same is true with Monkey Fist. It's an acoustic. When I play with it, it's an acoustic trio, and it is a modular band. It's Johnny D is the singer, and whoever he can get with him, and he has his priority. But if I can't make a gig, he'll pull somebody else in, or if a guitar player can't make a gig, it'll pull somebody else in. But it absolutely limits what that band can do. Like that band could be so much better, but there's no expectation of that. We know what it is. We know where it's going to be. We can have fun and be positive on stage. Nobody on stage is sitting there thinking, man, if only we had the same people at every gig, this would be better. That's not the mindset. It's, I know what I signed up for. The crowd knows what they signed up for. And, here we go. So.
Yeah. And, I guess to me, it's kind of the difference of, being the Dave Hamilton band versus a brand. And
Yes.
for me, the whole branding thing is that it's like when you go to see a theater performance of Hamilton, let's just use that as an example,
Sure.
since it's your last name. You may have the main guy playing the main character, or you may have an understudy. And either way, the show goes off without a hitch, and you're not supposed to notice any differences because the understudy is ready to go whenever needed. And
Yes.
the reason they have an understudy is because everybody is human and things happen and people move
Absolutely.
on and life changes occur. And like I said, the way I want to future-proof this band is by keeping this flexibility so that it's never dependent on one person. And even myself, like it's I'm replaceable in function, but not in vision. And, and what I mean by
Makes sense.
is that I make all the creative decisions for the band and decide what we play each show and what songs we add. All of those things are out of my creative bucket, and it's something I think about deeply, and I love it, and I get so much joy out of doing this and playing shows, even though sometimes they're so exhausting and you're up late and you're driving to go play at some venue you've never been to. But the joy we bring to people and the fun that I have performing music, I always come back to that. It's worth it. As exhausted as I am, as much coffee as I need the next day, it's such a joyful thing to have in my life. And like I said, my day job is an accountant, which, there's some fun in that job, but what I do on the weekends, that's really my passion. That's really what brings me so much joy in my life, and I want to continue doing as long as my human body allows. And that brings me to a thought. I wanted to ask you about, do you think perhaps we are in the golden era of performing live as musicians? And what do you anticipate technology-wise that the next decade or two may affect live music? and being a working musician?
I think, are we in the golden era? So, as far as technology goes, yes. I mean, we can get a perfect mix on stage. We can get a perfect mix in the house. Like all the gear is not just it not only exists, but it is affordable for bands to do, right? So in that sense, yes. Like and the gear that the instruments that we have, all the stuff, like it's been the design of it's been iterated because it's fell apart for us 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, right? And so now we get all this stuff that's super reliable, and I got to knock on wood because I'm sure I've just cursed myself, but really, like, so in that sense, yes, we're in the golden age of it. Are we in the golden age of crowds wanting to come out and see music? That is an interesting question. Certainly in like 2021 and 2022, we saw a huge interest in live music, right? Because people had been trapped on their couches for a while and wanted to get out and see it. Some of that has remained. It's certainly, I would say that there's more interest now than there was in like 2018, 2019. But compared to 30 years ago, no. The crowds are not the same, and it's because in my opinion, it's for two reasons. One, the drinking age changed, right? Bars are the general place where people go to see live music, at least for most of the people who listen here. And when the drinking age changed from 18 to 21, bars, everything kind of changed there. And I started gigging right as that was happening, and it was like people that were 10 years older than me are like, oh man, you missed out. And I was like, yep, I can see that. And we kind of saw it dwindle.
Yeah,
but
some of those are more outside influences. I really just mean as the performer yourself, the experience of performing live.
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
By golden era, I don't just mean right now, the 2025. I actually mean like I've been playing since I was 15. On just turned 40, so that's 25 years of music. And where I see the trajectory, if I think about AI and what's going on with the future, and where Suno as a creation tool and as a cover tool, which is really interesting. Very quick sidebar, I'll come back to this thought, but quick sidebar, Suno allows you to now upload audio, and if you have the free plan you can do up to a minute, but if you pay you can do a whole song, and it'll create a cover version of the audio that you upload. So what I've gone now, and it's super fun, I've gone back to my original bands and some of the recordings we've had. And
wow.
If you provide the audio of the recording that you've made in the studio with your old band, and you also upload the lyrics of the full song, it will take the recording that you upload, and it'll extrapolate it. It'll make it sound way better and AI polished. And since you provide the lyrics of the full song, it'll finish the rest of the song for you.
Oh,
and
wow.
It'll make some arrangement adjustments.
Sure.
I really recommend people just play with it. It's free. You get like 10 free credits a day, which is 5 free songs. So it's been super fun. And I've gone back to some of even my high school band. I took some really crappy recordings and I uploaded it, and it made a super AI polished version of a song we never got to record in the studio. So
that's kind of a
memory.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool use for it. Yeah.
I recommend people play with it. I had these group chats with my old bandmates in high school and different iterations of my musical career, and I've just been like sending them out. It's just a really funny thing or a cool thing to listen to, and a fun thing to share. But my path I was talking on before the Suno side
tangent.
story
tangent.
So where is it going? And somebody mentioned with like the augmented reality glasses that currently exist.
Yep.
That's sort of a potential to, instead of having an iPad or how I use a lyric teleprompter on a screen in front of the stage.
Sure.
That could now be an augmented reality screen only in the vision of the performer. So you don't even have to have anything physical on stage. And then the future of that is like, it's not going to be glasses forever. It's going to become a wearable, a ring or a contact lens, or
sure,
later than that, an internal neural implant. And I just wonder, will live musicians, will cover bands continue to do things the way that we do now, or how will that continue to evolve? Because the setup I have now was not really possible 20 years ago, or if
Not
it
at
was,
all.
it was very difficult.
The setup that most bands, I don't want to say most bands, many bands have right now was not possible 20 years ago. Even maybe not even possible 10 years ago. Just the tech existed, but was the cost, was it within reach, right? I mean, you could, so, yeah, that's a really interesting thing. Like, what will the tech allow? And I know there's people out there, and I know some who listen to the show who intentionally resist changing it and using any of the tech that has been introduced that we talk about here. And that's fine. It is about the audience enjoying it and you enjoying it. And depending on what you're doing, one of those things might be more important than the other, right? Like, you get to decide when you're creating your vision for your band, right? But yeah, and if you don't want to use the technology, that's great. But the availability of that tech, yeah, you're right. There's a lot.
Yeah, I think one really simple shift that could happen in the next decade is just AI auto mixing. So
it's already happening.
I know, but I mean, like, ubiquitous, like it is for like the in-ear technology is now.
I see what you. Yes, the AI auto mixing is happening at the A level of touring. So, for some people, I don't mean to put words in anyone's mouth.
I mean, for us little cover bands and our regional projects here.
But I bet within 5 years we've got that. The next. I think there's even some. I think the Allen and Heath mixers. Gosh, somebody was telling me about it the other day. There was listener Andy. Andy, you're gonna be banging on your keyboard or your dashboard, because he was telling me, I think it is the Allen and Heath mixers. You can buy the auto mixing plugin that comes with it, and it works. Evidently, it works great. I that's something I would like to learn more about. But yeah, I mean, a world where you set up a microphone and you give it a reference of. You give the mixer a reference of what you want your band to sound like, and then off you go.
And also, the monitor, if you can do an AI mix for the front of house, you should be able to say, for a monitor mix, I'm a guitar player, let's tweak the guitar and my vocal channel up a little bit, everything else a little lower. That should be more automated, because right now, I do all I'm a sound engineer as well. I work with a lot of other bands. And I have a sound engineer job tomorrow.
Okay.
Another quick tangent, but I'm doing the easiest job ever.
I want to tell your tangent, and I know we're like stretching time a little bit here, and I know we both have things that we need to do. But tell your tangent, and then I have a question for you that we may not get to the answer to, but I'm going to ask anyway.
I always have so much to share when I
know. We'll have to have you back, is what's going to happen. Yeah.
I before we wrap up, I just want to express my appreciation to you for this show. I love it. I listen to it on the way to or from gigs pretty much every weekend, and just immense gratitude for the work you put in to have these conversations. And
thanks for coming on the show. Thank you for saying that. It means, I don't mean to be dismissive. It means a ton to get feedback like that from everyone. It really, that's the fuel that keeps me going. And I do appreciate it. So thank you for saying that, and thanks for coming on the show. But we're not wrapping, right? We got a couple more things, but we can't go too long, because I actually have another show to record. So
yeah, no problem. What was I about to share? I was about to tell you a story.
A sound engineer gig tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. So thank you. I'm doing the easiest gig ever. It's just 6 microphones and a 5-hour gig, and they're paying me $900 for 2 days to it's a corporate talking event.
Yep.
And I just got this gig because I've been doing sound for other bands, and people know me as, a sound guy around town, and somebody recommended me. And that's a huge payday for very little work in relation to miking a full band.
Oh,
which is what I usually do. I'm looking forward to the next 2 days where it's like kind of the coasting kind of gig and very high pay. So
that's a good thing. Congrats.
Just a quick sidebar. Yeah.
So no, I have a question, and this is as a sound engineer. And I think we're all going to benefit from asking ourselves this question and learning how to communicate this to engineers. So the scenario of a band coming in, working with a front of house engineer that has never seen the band, or the same scenario described differently, a front of house engineer having a band come in that they've never met before and wanting to make things work. I have thoughts about this. I've been thinking about this for a very long time. How would you like a band to efficiently communicate to you, not how to mix? Presumably, if you're the front of house engineer, of course you know how to do that. So somebody coming in, I'm the band coming in, and I want to efficiently and respectfully communicate to you, here are the important things to know about what our band sounds like. Mm-hmm. Have you had this experience, and have you had it work out well or not?
So it's interesting because I am a performing musician. I do that way more often than I do sound gigs, but people that hire me know I have my own bands, and because I have that musician mindset, when I work a sound engineer gig, I am thinking 5 steps ahead to know what each musician needs, because I've done this so many times and I understand.
So that's not my question, though. That's great. Don't get me wrong. But the question is, maybe I should just frame it with my own answer here. So Casual Gravity is a perfect example. 4-piece band, guitar, bass, drums, and a lead singer. Our lead singer occasionally plays guitar. What winds up happening when we work with a front of house engineer, and this happens with Bitter Pill, like it happens all over the place, is that they'll have our lead singer's guitar, when he plays it, it will be louder than the primary guitar. But maybe that's because the front of house engineer thinks, oh, it's a new instrument on stage. Like, they haven't been given any instruction. So there's no blame here other than on us for not communicating to them, here's what our band should sound like. This is what we sound like. We want some consistency from gig to gig. That's the goal here. And then the other thing that often happens is harmony vocals are kind of all over the place. They're either, present in the mix, completely missing from the mix, all of that. So, like,
how do you know? How do you know what the front of house mix is? It feedback from other people?
I have people record record songs from the show and send them to us.
Okay, so you're judging off of a recording from a phone or something?
Yes, and I understand that a phone recording has its own limitations, but in terms of instrument levels, it's going to tell an accurate enough story to trigger. It's like, okay, like
that's fair.
I
guess my feedback
go ahead.
would be, there are sound engineers that are kind of set it and forget it kind of folks, and then there are people that pay attention and ride the faders appropriately, because every song, if you really pay attention, every song kind of has a unique element, especially if you're rotating who sings lead and who's harmonies.
Yep.
That's gonna, you can kind of do it with mic placement and you could kind of do it, but really the best way is to keep the mics static and have the sound engineer adjust for who's singing lead on any given song and who's singing harmony. And all it is, it's a few dB up or down. It's not, these aren't drastic changes.
No,
they make a big difference in the
But what
quality.
happens when an engineer, because I've watched it happen, and as an engineer myself, it drives me crazy. What happens is an engineer will see, okay, there's the lead vocalist, and let's say that person's at Unity, right? Mm-hmm. On the mixer, the harmonies will be at -12. Right. And it's like, okay, that might be okay for some bands, but for bands, and what I've learned with Casual Gravity, and this has come from having this discussion with other front of house engineers, like, and engineers that have seen the band, engineers that haven't, the best advice that I got is, think about a band that everyone knows that your band sounds like, or what that has the same sonic signature as your band. And as soon as an engineer said that to me, I was like, oh, for Casual Gravity, that's easy. It's Van Halen, right? Harmonies are mixed hot. Michael Anthony was just as important to their vocal sound as David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar was, right? When his harmonies come in, it levels it up. And the same with Eddie. I mean, Eddie's harmonies are more important than most people think, because you hear Michael at the top end, but Eddie really filled in that middle there. and it like they were a vocal band. And nobody thinks about them that way, but if you took the vocals away, everybody would think about them that way. You know, be like, wait, what happened? Why doesn't the chorus sound that way? So what I've learned with Casual is telling people, mix us like Van Halen. Stage left guitar is the driving force all the way through. Make sure that's always the loudest guitar, even when Tom has his guitar on, and keep the harmonies hot. And what I've learned over the years is, and not just with Casual, but with other bands, is to tell people, you don't know enough about, and this is like, I'm saying it a little aggressive here. I always try to find a way to massage this, but as a sound engineer, you don't know where we've put harmonies in. So trying to actively mix and saying, oh, there's somebody singing now, let me bring them up, and then let me bring them down when they're not singing, maybe to keep stage watch, it's not going to work. You don't know enough. And that's not a slight on anyone. Doesn't mean you don't know how to mix. It's you don't know our band. So how can I help you know our band? That's always the question. Yeah.
And it really is one of the most subjective artistic things, because
it is.
A sound engineer can drastically alter how a band comes
They are your
across.
producer. Yes.
And I think, doing some studio mixing, and, a big thing is reference tracks. So I think your idea to reference a band that is the sound you want to go for, and also to confirm that we are a vocal band.
Right.
Everybody sings harmonies. It's very important that the vocals are above,
the instruments
are have clarity and are audible.
Yeah.
So, and I think mentioning those things will guide a good sound engineer to make the right decisions.
I agree.
I don't know that every sound engineer is perfect for every job, but sometimes we're stuck with the ones we got.
You're stuck with the one you have. That's absolutely true.
I've certainly, I do sound for my band a lot of times, but we work with a lot of sound companies as well.
Sure.
And I've certainly come across many sound engineers that seemingly don't seem to know what they're doing, but they get along doing the job.
They do the job.
At least they didn't make my band sound how I envision it, and maybe that's a communication issue.
That's the thing is I want to keep having this conversation on the show for everybody listening. Yeah. Because I think we can all. The trick is to do it, of course, like I said, respectfully for sure, but also efficiently. You can't give someone 5 paragraphs to read. I feel like this is, we sound like X, and here are 1 or maybe 2 sentences about why we sound like X. Like if you don't know what I mean when I say we sound like Van Halen, I'm going to tell you, and then we're done. Like the conversation has to end. Yeah.
And let me make a recommendation on that note.
Yeah,
so
please.
Did you provide, the one you have in mind, did you provide them with the stage plot? Just curious.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
we always do the stage plot. Yeah.
I haven't seen your Gravity stage plot, but maybe on there you write, note, we make us sound like Van Halen. We are a vocal band.
Oh, yes.
Maybe put some crib notes on there so that when they review it, they get that note, and you maybe don't even have to say it on stage because it's been pre-communicated sort of as a pre-production step.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea.
I think the stage plot, many bands barely have one, or if they do, it's like a completely underwhelming PDF. But I really try to give the information that, because I'm on both sides of the job, I try to give the information that I would want.
I would love to have that on a stage plot for sure. This is amazing. Great advice. Thank you.
Yeah,
all right.
Add it on there and see if that helps in your next experience.
Yep. Brilliant. Thank you for doing this. I have more questions I want to ask you, but we'll just have to do this again sometime sooner than 18 months. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe one day I'll catch up to Mr. Mike Schulte.
I like having these competitions. There are a couple of sound engineers, front of house engineers out there that are, I think, sort of quietly competing with each other for a number of Gig Gab appearances, and I'm here for it. So it's great. It makes it easy to fill the schedule.
Much love to everybody in the community, and like I said earlier, I really appreciate the conversations, and it's the kind of thing that I don't get to talk about. If I try to bring it up to my friends, their eyes instantly glaze over. And
well, that's the point of the show.
It really is.
Is that?
You've cultivated a community, much like I try to do with my thing, and I think it's a beautiful thing, and I appreciate all the sharing, and I just want to contribute as much as I can myself as well.
Thank you. You are an excellent contributor. It's a pleasure to have you here, my friend. And we will have you back sooner than 18 months. The way that I book it, I just said it in last week's episode. I am a one-man band in terms of the booking and recording of the show. Sadie on the team here certainly helps with like all the social media stuff that happens after episodes are out. But yeah, it gets, you know, I
know the feeling. Trust me.
Yeah. So, but what that means is like my bookings, I'll book like, you know, 6 weeks worth of people, and then suddenly I'll realize, oh crap, I have nothing booked because I've been slammed with all the other things I do in my life. Clearly, there's room for a better system. There are room for improvements here, but that's the reason it's been 18 months since we've heard from you here on the show. It's certainly
All good,
not.
man. I've been busy as well.
And you texted me and you were like, I should get back on the show. I'm like, yes, perfect. Let's do it. Yep. So it's easy. Yeah.
I got some songs to learn on bass for a rehearsal in 2
there you
weeks
go.
with another band. So
love it.
I'll get back to it as well. But like I said, thank you again for having me. Much appreciated.
No, my pleasure. Tell people where they can find you, my friend.
Yeah, look me up on, I guess Instagram's a great spot to begin, at Adam Moskowitz Music, and you could see my name spelling correctly in the episode description.
I will put everything in the show notes too. You can just click links too. Yep.
I would also love if you look up my band, which is VAM Band. VAM stands for Very Awesome Music. And, you know, if you enjoy the conversation here, you can go back and listen to the prior 2 episodes I've done with Dave and also Paul on the first one.
Yeah.
And, you know, I love coming on the podcast, and vanband.com is the other spot. So thanks a lot.
We'll put the links there. There is one last thing that I need you to say, my friend. So would you do me the honors?
Oh, well.
Performing. Later, Dave.
Thanks, Adam. Later. Thanks, folks. GigGabPodcast.com. That's where you can find the show notes with all the links, things we talked about. You can follow Adam. Sign up for the mailing list. It's all good. We'll see you next week, folks. Later.